There was a time not that long ago where a bike like this, a big Harley, would set you back quite a fair chunk of your paycheck. My, how times have changed. Oh, wait a second. They still set you back a fair chunk of your paycheck. For the very newer ones, of course, this year 2025 model, in the year 2025, then these certainly are still horrendously overpriced. But these old bikes, this is an old 1989 Big Twin 1340cc air-cooled pushrod V-twin belt drive touring bike from back in the day, 1989. You can pick these up for really quite reasonable now. They're not that expensive. You can pick them up for like $3,000. And they're really good bikes, actually, in terms of longevity, if you do the maintenance, like anything else, of course. They have definitely some pros and cons, and I thought I'd do a quick video of just an honest review of these motorcycles, because the problem with most opinions on these bikes is they're laced with testosterone and machismo, and you never really get a straight answer from people. They are a clunky old thing. They're a bit farmish. They're a bit, I don't know how to say, cobbled together. The handling leaves a bit to be desired. They're good for, 60, 70, maybe 80 miles an hour tops. But beyond that, they start to get a little flighty on the road for sure, particularly in the hairpin corners, say. But it's not really designed for that.
There's rubber mounting in the back swing arm. Kind of interesting.
This bike kind of harks back to a time when cars were slower, the roads were slower. And if you just want to cruise around on a comfortable motorcycle, these are pretty good, actually. They've been known to fetch 400, 500,000 kilometers, which is about 300,000 miles, really without any grief if you leave it stock. And that's the key. The rarest Harley is a stock Harley, and these ones are no exception. The thing of it is, most people didn't leave them alone. They had to modify them. They put cams in them because, as I said, they're a little lacking in the power department and the handling department. But if you leave it bone stock, you're happy just to plod along and cruise along on a Sunday, they're perfectly adequate motorcycles in that regard. I'm starting to see them more and more come onto the market. They're on estate sales, health reasons, passing them along, getting out of the big bikes as people age, because the demographics, of course, that own these things, they're getting up in the years for sure. And my impression is the young kids really aren't interested in riding an old mechanical couch. However, if you're going to eat some miles and do some touring, for the price, they're quite well built. The metal on these things is particularly astonishing by today's standards. He didn't skimp on the gauge of metal on these things, so even the tin on the headlights is quite thick. The bags are all fiberglass and the side covers, and they're not cheap plastic. The fender has some meat on it. There's a lot of metal on this thing, but on the flip side, that's what lends them to being a big heavy pig for sure. But once they're rolling, they're pretty good.
Boy, there's a lot of wiring going on in there, eh? A lot of little brackets. Everything's so kind of clunky. A little bit farmish, a little bit rough around the edges. And things sometimes are like seemingly an afterthought. I don't know. But they're built well. Like forks. Forks are made by Harley Davidson. Forks are made by Showa. And that's made in Japan. Actually, it says right there, made in Japan. But look at the heft of this thing. I mean, it's absolutely massive, isn't it? That's a big chunk of aluminum. I mean, it's heavy. And the diameter of the fork, I mean, the stanchion part is like substantial, like they weren't building, like look at the fork cap, it's all steel. It's like a big clunky chunk of metal there. So that's what I do like about Harley Davidsons. They're like, even the fender, I mean, it's like solid metal, tins they call it, set of tins, bodywork when you, I don't know, that's what Harley Davidson motorcycle people in North America call it. But anyways, yeah, these are the shrouds. If you don't know, these are shrouds that go over the forks. So they're bare forks, like on the stanchions there, and then these shrouds go over top, and they're held on by a couple screws. And then they go through the top tree, and the only thing that holds the top tree on is a cap, and then there's a pinch bolt there, and then the cap you undo. Here's the cap, and that screws into the top here. I'm trying to film and look through the camera and do this. It's almost impossible sometimes. Can't do two things at once. But anyways, so yeah, the cap. So that's the fork. The top tree goes on top of here. The cap holds it on, and then the lower is right here, and that's where the pinch bolt is. So pretty simple, pretty basic. They just take ATF fluid, automatic transmission oil, which is about 30 weight, I think. So these old dampener style forks show a kind of interesting. I think the wheels were made in Australia. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, it's amazing how many parts are farmed out on this thing. But yeah, heavy, clunky, but solid, rock solid. I mean, you could, if you were willing to drive something like this around the world and put up with it, you could just have a pretty good trip, trouble-free, really. Heavy duty. Like, look at the foot bags on this thing. It's crazy, eh? Anyways, I'm going to finish up the forks. I just thought I'd do a quick video while I got the thing all apart. It's kind of cool if you had never seen one apart. This is a batwing fairing. The batwing fairing's up there. The front cover, and this is the inner cover, of course. Radio, handlebars. They don't have fuses. They just have these breakers, you know, on Harley Davidsons, and they click off when the fuse overloads, and then they click back on automatically. That's why they're stuffed into the fairing. You never really have to touch them. Kind of interesting. You see, that's where you fill up the forks. There's a Schrader valve on the end here, and you fill it up, and there's a tube that comes out of the handlebars. See, and it goes in here, and then it goes into the fork on the other side, and that's how you fill up the air suspension through the end of your handlebar. So kind of interesting. There's the one for the rear. The Schrader valve for the rear fills up the rear air shocks. So if you don't know, now you know.
Well, the parts are readily available, and they're quite reasonable. The parts, aftermarket, JP Cycles, Drag Specialties, MGO. There's a plethora of companies that make aftermarket stuff for this motorcycle, and so the parts availability for older Harleys is really remarkably quite good. So the first year of these were about 1984. The first Evolution motors, these are called Evolutions, blockhead motors, big twins. They had a 1340, they had a 1200cc Sportster and an 883 Sportster as well, and that was about it. And they had a whole bunch of variations on a theme with these things, and their bad reputation came from the old shovel heads, the old iron heads, which were 1200cc for the shovel and 1000 for the Sportster iron head thing, and they were a real piece of junk. AMF took them over, which is company American Machine Foundry, and they were just absolute junk. They tainted Harley's reputation almost forever, and you couldn't make it down to the coffee shop without something falling off them. Real piece of junk. But these things, however, came out in '84. These are actually pretty good motors, good oil pumps, you know, not the best handling thing ever, dripping with chrome, nice paint jobs for sure. You pick these up for cheap, and they're really good bikes in terms of reliability because of their simplicity, right? There's not much that goes on with these things that you can't really roll up your sleeves, get a service manual, some basic tools, and fix. So there's that for sure. Look at that comfy seat. That's like a couch, man. It's so nice to ride down the highway. Very simple motorcycles, very easy to work on, and lots of resources, parts, cheap availability of the parts. From a rider's point of view, again, they're a little clunky. The handling leaves a bit to be desired for sure. And the power, and that's why everybody popped them up, because the power is a little lacking on these things, particularly at 60, 70 miles an hour. You throttle it, you go to pass something, and there's not much action going on there, let me tell you. But with that said, a little planning in advance, and you ride the bike accordingly, and you might just find yourself liking it. It's a different kind of ride for sure. It's very involved. It's very mechanical. It's very kind of rattly. There's a lot going on underneath you, and you know all about it. It's not a silky smooth sort of BMW affair, 100%. So, but yeah, cool bikes. Dual disc brakes, 16-inch tires, really basic. A couple spotlights on the front. What else to say about it? I don't know. Nice bags on it. I mean, these things are like sturdy, heavy-duty bags. They're fiberglass, heavy-duty plastic, good latches on them. I mean, everything's really heavy, but, you know, they wear funny. And if you look, the trunk rattles, the gas cap rattles. You know, it's that kind of thing that puts people off. And also, the other thing too is about these things a lot of people don't mention. They're really good on gravel roads. I don't know what it is, the rake or something, but you can pile these things down a gravel road and you can feel pretty confident about it if you want. The only drag is that belt, that drive belt. You get a rock in that drive belt, it'll split it. So chain drive's also, you know, the way to go. Yeah, drive belt it's kind of nice, like maintenance free, but you do catch a rock in there and you'll be upset about it for sure. So it's a dry sump motor. It's got an oil tank here, and that feeds the motor. There's a pump down there on the end of the crank, and it pumps the oil around the engine, etc., etc. Single carburetor, made in Japan. It's a Kahanen carburetor on this thing, commonly found on a lot of different models, but a Kahanen carburetor nonetheless. And the rear suspension you can find on old CB900 C models. Lots of global parts on this thing, Taiwanese stuff, etc., etc. But good quality machine, good solid construction, nice fiberglass fairing. They weren't cheaping out on this stuff like they are today. The stuff they make today is so chintzy, it's unbelievable. You don't get cases like this. This is pretty nice, heavy duty trunk on this thing. You just undo the latches, lift it up. Lots of room in there. Look at that. Your jacket, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, yeah, good little review on a Big Twin Harley Davidson. Thinking of buying one? Go for it. Never had one before. If they're only $3,000, Jesus, what do you got to lose, really? $3,000, I guess. But generally, you get a whole running motorcycle for $3,000. How can you go wrong, right? Try it out. You might like it. Chew on that, and let me know what you think. Cheers.